We're going to go through the bench press. First of all, we've got to set the bench up for the correct height and everything for myself. Now, we're using a rack rather than a competition bench press that I'm used to. So we've set the height. Basically, when you lay down, you tighten your body up, plant your feet nice and stable on the ground. Some people arch their back to increase to decrease the distance between the bar and their chest, also to compress the spine and create a little bit more force through the legs. You want to be able to push the bar straight up and quite easily clear the hooks. So obviously they don't compromise you taking it out in a stable position, but also you don't want to be half pressing the bar before you pick it up. So you want that nice compromise between the hooks being a little, too high and too low. So I think this should do for me. Usually I do set up with a significant arch in competition, but as we're it's a little bit stiff and sore after competition on Sunday, I'm just going to set up with a minimal arch and start warming up. We'll go with one plate and we'll slowly increase the weight depending on how my tight shoulders and bicep tendons feel today. I've basically planted my feet where I think they'll be in a stable position with my heels off the ground. That's how I prefer it, and we're allowed to do that in competition. I grab the bar with my ring finger on the rings, and then I pull myself into a position that I think is most stable for me, pulling my scapula together and squeezing the bar nice and tight. We'll push the bar up and slowly and controlled descend and then explode off the chest. For a bit of extra wrist stability, I'm using these wrist wraps. These are probably the longest allowed in competition. They're nearly 1 meter long. I've got reasonably large wrists, and they just provide some support and enable me to keep my wrist locked straight over my elbow. We just do this pretty much as tight as we can, especially when you're benching quite heavy. And it just enables the wrist to be locked straight, as I said, and you want it stacked up over the elbow. With the bench press, I see a lot of people with the wrist bending backwards. The bar feels more comfortable in your hand, but the weight actually transfers over to the front of your shoulder, and often with the average gym goer can contribute to shoulder issues and injury. So we talked a little bit before about foot positioning and leg drive. So with myself, I like to push through the balls of my feet. I do try and actively push my heels down to create tightness through the legs, which then allows me to arch the spine and create more drive through the body. Some people prefer to have their feet flat with their toes pointed out. Just depends on personal preference and how you are actually stronger. I would actually like to have my feet flat, but my sort of mobility doesn't really allow for that. So I push the balls of the feet through the ground. I actively push the heels down, even though they are off the ground. It locks my legs, locks my hips, and it enables me to, when the bar is being pushed off the chest, I push straight through the ground with my legs and drive my whole body upwards, backwards, and the bar goes upwards.